Monday from the Foresters.
Good morning, Sarah. Happy Monday. Maybe we just should address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, the fact that you didn't wear the shirt and I did. I thought we were going to be twins.
I'm sorry I changed because you were giving me such a hard time. All right, but we'll get our wardrobe straight soon. Portraits.
That's why you're dressed up today.
Yes, because it's picture day.
Well, I didn't dress up, so I don't know if I'm going to have my picture taken. I'm coming for retakes.
Well, that's fine. All right. That brings up a very important point.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't upload your portraits yourself. First of all, you don't know if those are the final portraits. We don't upload portraits until after the makeups are included. So please do not upload. And if you upload yourself, you'll have no names. They'll just be random JPEG numbers, and you'd have to type in every name. We don't type in names. That just leads to a mistake, okay? So number one, don't upload your portraits. Two, you'll get some type of link from your photography company, but make sure you only send it to us after the makeups are included. And sometimes you just got to call them up and go, are my makeups included now? Because you don't know sometimes.
Or just say, do I have every photograph you've taken on my campus?
Right. Is there another day scheduled? Because sometimes there'll be another day for makeups and you didn't even know there was one.
Especially if you're a track school.
Right. Because those tracks 1, 2, 3, 4, they got multiple picture days.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So this has happened in multiple schools though, that they leave out the makeup pictures. And sometimes that's the only picture of that kid because they only went to makeup day like you.
Well, it's your fault.
All right. So I've got my portraits uploaded. What do I do next?
Very little because we do so much of that for you.
Right. But they're going to come in under portraits in grade or by teacher, depending on elementary or middle school. So I'm going to take my 9th grade and I'm going to go through it and make sure that at least everybody there has a name, right?
Yes, and that sounds crazy, but you'd be amazed how you'll get a photo uploaded that says unknown.
Right. And another thing you're going to do is you won't know all these kids, right? But if you have uploaded your data list, then when we flow in these pictures and we turn on dynamic spelling, it'll let us know if maybe Kristen doesn't match the Kristen that's in the data list. So maybe she's an EN instead of an IN, okay? Right. And the photographer got it wrong, or even the data's wrong at your school.
Sometimes the kid spells their own name wrong.
Exactly.
Well, there's some common mistakes that we see a lot,
right?
That you need to look at. So I know that for some of you who have thousands of kids at your school, you're not going to know them all. Mm-hmm. And even the idea of reading every name seems daunting, but we need you to read every name. And then we need you to get somebody who is likely to know the kids to read them. So some things that you might find. If you have a last name that has like a Mick at the beginning, like McDougal, make sure the D is capitalized.
Right.
Because oftentimes in the photography's program,
it does just the first letters capitalized.
Or there won't be a space.
Right. And like things that have apostrophes, like O'Neill and O'Brien.
Right.
They will never capitalize the letter that's after the apostrophe. So you've got to look on that.
And then sometimes there's some names that'll be like DeRosa and the DE is lowercase space capital R, but they'll have those capitalizations backwards.
Right. So the good thing you can do is actually go to a grade level counselor and just say, hey, could you look through these? Another thing to look for is if two kids have the same name and they're side by side in your portraits, one of them is probably not correct. Because sometimes the photographers will not change the electronic card or what they're using, and they'll take 2 or 3 with the same name. They didn't change the name. So if I have 2 Sloans here, I might go, I don't think one of these has got to be wrong. So you got to figure out which one's right and rename. It's really easy to edit them.
Yeah.
Because all you're going to do is just click on the photo on that little I button, and you can just go in and you can edit the name, edit the grade, whatever you need.
So if Kristen with an I needs to be Kristen with an E, that's how you're going to do it. We'll do a little overlay on the screen here so you can see it. So this is how you're going to do it. What if there's a picture of me and a picture of you and we're both labeled Kim Trezona?
Well, that's a hard one, isn't it?
That one you're probably going to want to email us because we actually need to remove both names, clear the system, and then put the
real names back in because it'll keep crossing those two photos.
Yeah. So in that case, probably email
Just
us.
email us and say, hey, I've got 2 of these on, in the 9th grade. The first one is the correct name. The second one is not. And here's their name. And then we'll fix it for you.
Right. Okay. Another thing that sometimes will happen is there's an entire folder of students that have no grade.
Right. It'll say unknown or data missing. It could have anything. So your photographer puts all the photos that they don't know where they go by grade or teacher in there. You have to go find out who they are, add their name in the edit, and then put them in the right grader with the right teacher. And also, if you have students that maybe are at school more than the 12 years, okay, or more than the 4 years of high school, make sure you check with some of the inclusion teachers and things like that to make sure every student is in the proper grade when you flow the portraits.
More importantly, that they're not just flat out left out.
Yes.
Sometimes it will be called grade 009.
Some weird
because
title.
Or a grade 13.
Because they didn't come with a grade maybe to get their picture taken. Guys, every folder in the portraits
matters.
Need to be checked. Yeah. Don't ever leave one out. And if you have teachers who refuse to go get their pictures taken and you've worked with us, we save your staff portraits every year and they'll be under my 23.
So does that mean I can still look like I did when I was like 20 something starting teaching?
Yep, sure can. And you have to pull that portrait into your portrait folder and name it.
Because, we can help with that.
Yeah, because it's on the server. It doesn't really just pull off the server and go into your portraits. We still keep that copy on the server at the plant. Another thing is because, you've got such a great, there's some of you have such large amounts of people. Get your kids in your classroom. Y'all do a day where you put up the portraits and go, okay, does anybody see anything wrong with these first 20 or this next 20 or whatever? Elementary schools, you can actually there's a little button that will make a PDF of the teacher's class, and you can have her or him check it and make any corrections.
I actually do this at my kids' elementary school where I'm the advisor, and I have a form that goes with it, and I make them read through it, and they have to initial, is every kid accounted for? If not, who's missing? Is every name spelled correctly? Do the faces, the names match? I'll put that form in our resources folder.
That would be a good idea.
And if you want to use that and just kind of adjust it to fit your needs, you're welcome to do that.
One time I was the yearbook advisor at my kids' elementary school, and I always did that. And the teacher signed it and sent back. Everything was great. I flowed the pictures. Books came out. Dad said his daughter's name was wrong. Yet I'd already gone through the process. So it's a good idea, elementary teachers, to do that, especially with that kind of stuff.
Well, it's so they know these kids. They spend the day with them. I mean, it's not like middle and high school. They're all day with them, so they're going to know.
How do I get my portraits on my pages?
That's when you're going to email us and you're going to say, I'm ready for my portraits to be flowed. But we need a little more information than that. Because if you just say, I want my portraits to be flowed, I'm going to be like, well, what order? Do you want them going from the oldest to the youngest? What page are they going on? How many do you want per page?
So if you say, I want my 9th graders flowed on these pages.
Sure.
Then I can figure out mathematically how many need to go.
Right. And maybe you say, make sure you leave room on one side for a module.
Right. Or maybe I'm going to do a mod per spread. Leave this much space. Then we can do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better if you go ahead and put the mod on the page.
Yeah, we can work around it.
And then we put the portraits around those mods and flow. You're never going to have to type. Now, some of you are going to have really long names. So we got to plan for that. So if you know you're going to have a lot of double names, really long names, we got to make sure that we leave enough space
on the sides.
On the sides so that those long names fit as well. Because that's really important that we get the whole name.
Right, I totally agree. Now, what about putting the names on the side versus under? What are your thoughts on that?
If you're a giant school and you have thousands of kids, put them on the side. Yeah, because there's just no way. You'd use it your whole book doing portraits.
Underneath takes more room.
Mm-hmm. Underneath takes more room.
So it's a great way to do it with your seniors. That makes it special. Mm-hmm. And
elementary, you can usually do it for a teacher's classroom if they're not giant, 35 a classroom.
Right. Or and there are some small schools who like to do it that way. Mm-hmm. I like to put the names under for the teachers and then add some additional information about them. Now, again, a giant high school, this might not work, but for a smaller school, if I could put Kim Trezona, social studies teacher, I think that's fun if you have space.
So we can flow the faculty, and then you can have a text box underneath the flow of each one that you can put in what they do if you want to do that.
So it's okay for your, say, staff and your seniors or 8th graders or
something like that
to have something different to make it special, but then for your...
I got asked the other day about, how about if I have all my seniors sign their name and I want to put it? I'm like, well, that's great, but I can't even read my own name when I write it. So
you need
you got to have two things. You would have to then scan each one of those and knock out that, and then you'd have to type their names.
Yeah, I would always type their name, but if you have access to an iPad, you can actually have them sign on the iPad, and then you can export it as a PNG and upload it. You don't even have to scan.
That's a good idea.
So digitally is really a great option if that's something that you're interested in doing. But again, some things need to be kept special for just your graduating class. One, because let's give them a little something special. And two, because we have logistically to get it done and to get them uploaded, and you don't want to overwhelm yourself with work. And we also need to consider spacing.
Right. And back to that handwriting, I'm not suggesting it, basically, because it does run into a lot of problems, because depending on the width or the how thick the handwriting is how much better, how you can read it. Because some things we don't realize when we're writing something, how much we pick our pen up off the paper. Yeah. So there's a lot of spots that could be missing.
So if you're going to go that route, practice. Make sure you're happy with it before you just branch out to everybody. What about, and I know, don't shoot me, what about senior quotes?
I wouldn't do them. Ever.
Me neither. I hate them.
I don't hate them. I just find that every student that's trying to get away with something will Google, what can I get away with in a senior quote? So we see the same bad quotes in numerous books because they're not original.
And everybody else will Google a senior quote and have the same Dolly Parton quote.
Guys, just stay. And basically only 30 to 50% of your students are going to participate. So you end up with all this wasted space that you could have used. I have a school that still does something, but they do it on the side, just a little column, so that they're not with the name. So they just run them through, because that way they're not taking up space that they could add another row of portraits. Yeah. Last Will and Testaments, never put those in your book.
It sounds so fun, and your kids will try so hard to convince you to do it, and you want to make them happy, but...
So Last Will and Testaments end up being a lot of acronyms, like MJB, WW, Susie's house. And you're like, what does that mean? Well, if they can't write it out, it means something that they don't want you to know.
Or The Office, episode 32, minute something.
They can't write it out, they don't want you to know what it is. Song lyrics.
Maybe that song lyric isn't bad, but it's from a Cardi B song, so we all know the next one is going to be.
Right. Don't use them if you can get away with it. If you're absolutely set on doing senior quotes, think about religion, think about politics. There's so much stuff you need to consider when you're doing stuff like this. It's best to leave them out.
And if you absolutely insist on doing it, you need an administrator to read through every one of them and approve them.
Sign off on them. Because you don't want to get fired over a senior quote or a last one. Just don't do Last Will and Testaments. I did those in the newspaper when I was the advisor, because I was a newspaper and yearbook advisor, because I could recycle the newspaper. It wasn't
forever.
It had a short life.
Yeah.
Versus a yearbook that has a lifetime, right?
So what are some other ways you could do something special for your seniors?
You could put what clubs they were involved in, what sports they played. You could do sort of like a directory kind of thing. Like, that's kind of old timey, but I like it.
I do too.
So like French Club, 4 years, varsity baseball, 2 years kind of thing. And that's fun. And that tells you a lot about the people rather than a quote that they stole.
Think about how much larger you could make their photos if you weren't trying to save space for all that text too.
Yeah. You could do a lot better job of putting a really nice size portrait of them in there. Right. And you know what? I tell people, if you need that quote so bad, buy an ad.
Oh, yes. That is a good suggestion.
Because I'm not going to put it in my book, but if your parents put it in their ad, that is their choice. Now, every school has a right to refuse things. Okay. So if it's an ad and they've got a quote and you don't think it's appropriate, you can still remove it. That's just the way it works. But, if they want to put a Bible verse, if they want to put something, let it be in the ad.
That's some good advice.
Yeah. Anyway, we hope we've helped a little and not confused you. We're here to help on the portrait section. That is where we can specialize in making your life really easy. You do your mods, we do your portraits.
Now, the important question. What are you wearing next week?
Probably that shirt. Bye.
Please go to JustinStar.com right now. I'll buy your book before time runs out.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free.
I had a teacher one time tell me he couldn't have his picture taken because he was in the witness protection program.
Oh, goodness. They will use some excuses, won't they, to avoid picture day.